Now, James Bond, Sean Connery, the only real James Bond. And why have I put that up there? Well, I was very privileged. I went on one of the leadership development course a few years ago called the Top Management Program, the Cabinet Office Program. It's a wonderful thing. And the reason it's wonderful is you go away and learn about leadership with a mixed group of people, about 50% from the private sector, banks, oil companies, that kind of thing, and about 50% from the public sector, all kinds of people. It's wonderful. Well, if you ever get the chance to do it, it's a wonderful program. And one of the people on the program was a spy. This was fantastically exciting. He told us he was a spy the night he got drunk, which explained the last 40 years of British foreign policy. In fact, the truth was he'd been a proper spy, but he explained that the kind of career lifespan of being a proper spy is quite short because people kind of figure out who you are and what you're doing, and so you haven't got that much time when you're a useful kind of operational person, and beyond that you go on to do other things. You go on to run other spies, or as he'd done, you take those skills into another sector. And he was working in one of the big global electronics companies in counter-industrial espionage. And he had a multi-million-pound budget to stop companies stealing secrets about how to make processes better. Now, at that time, I was a board director of the NHS Modernisation Agency, a precursor to the Institute, and I said, that's really interesting. I said, we've got a multi-million-pound organisation trying to give secrets away free of how to make processes better, and we can't get them to stick. In fact, when David Fillingham was the chief executive at the time of the Modernisation Agency, asked how we could make dissemination of ideas better, I said, we should make them all secret. Well, it was sort of a joke, but there is something in that, isn't it, which is our attitude is perverse. We talk about how much we care deeply about improvements in patient care, but not enough to go onto Google and look up all the developments this week in technology and critical care. Not enough to visit the 5 best sites that you could find easily from the journals in this country, let alone internationally, and pick up the phone and spend time with them. We have a deep cultural problem about hunger to learn and adopt. We regard adoption as cheating. You know, the idea doesn't count unless we did it. It's copying someone else's homework. It's time to get over it. It's time to get over it. The most profound example I would give is about learning from your neighbours. When I was very proud to be a hospital chief executive in York, we had a neighbouring hospital in Harrogate. York was a good hospital. It was a foundation trust, 3 stars. Harrogate was a very, very successful hospital. The only way we could cope with how successful Harrogate was by describing them as a very successful small hospital. That was our mental protection. We used to wake up every day hoping they'd be found out for the liars and cheats and charlatans that they were, having the temerity to be better than us on every point of the league table. That was our attitude, until one day we decided on an issue that we were struggling with, that we knew they were excellent at, to pick the phone up and say, can we come and see what you do? And they said, that would be great. And while you're here, we knew you're doing fantastic work in pre-assessment in major surgery. Will you talk to us about it? The problem is us, and you can change it today. You can decide to go onto Google and find the 10 best things. You don't have to have anything sophisticated. Google will get you 90% of the way. You can decide to read the journals and visit those sites. You can decide to ring, God help us, your neighbours who you hate, and find out what works for the cost of one 10-mile journey. And if we're not doing it, we cannot look our patients in the face and say we're doing the best. We can't look taxpayers in the face and say we're making the best use of the money, as long as we can't get over ourselves to learn from what we already have. So, let's turn ourselves into spies. You don't have to wear special gear. There's no laser beams. You know, if you ring people, they open the door. People say the market will change that. I haven't experienced it. You ring someone, they'll open the door, and they'll talk to you about the great work that they do. So that's about us, things we should change in our own attitudes. I want to say a few concluding words about the opportunity of the new system. One of the things that in the endless commentary about the reform process that people say it's going to be a much more difficult system for dissemination, spread of innovation, because it's less integrated, it's smaller parts. Well, I think that's a misreading of how the system will be. And I just want to describe 3 or 4 of the chunks. And this is a thought that was in my mind that was enriched, particularly from a discussion last night with some other NHS and industry colleagues. I'm borrowing very heavily from that, but about how the new part of the system will come to life and how we can choose to design that in a way that drives this innovation. Firstly, if you think about the commissioning side, it is fantastic that the most energised GPs, who frankly we've had slightly suppressed for a number of years, are going to be given the opportunity to have the ball and run with it. The leading edge, the top 20% of GPs, will achieve change faster than we have done through SHAs and PCTs. I was an SHA chief executive, so I feel comfortable about saying that. I mean, I'm old enough to remember fund holding. The leading edge of entrepreneurs in that business will work to be hungry to develop and use innovation. What they won't do necessarily is drive spread. And that's where the second layer comes in. This is perhaps the 2 least talked about parts of the new commissioning landscape, and they're at least as important in my mind as the vital component of GP commissioning.